All right, busy second hour. I love how we're going to start this hour because it's Browns and camp starts Wednesday. Rookies reported yesterday. It was really wild to see. It just feels like this summer just got started. And yesterday we had video of all of the rookies reporting to camp and everything else on Channel 3 yesterday. Camp starts Wednesday. There's the video. Guys, we know that the single biggest question is what the heck are they going to do at quarterback? And it should be. In fact, I would say that if you weight these, that's 80% of the questions regarding this football team. What is the next biggest question for the Cleveland Browns? So take quarterback out of the mix.
Yeah.
What do you got?
To me, think about when was the last time the Browns drafted a receiver that had sustained success in the NFL?
Ozzie Newsome.
And he was a tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm joking, but I don't think.
Listen, I don't think you're wrong.
Webster Slaughter? Where was Slaughter drafted?
Slaughter was drafted out of San Diego State, and I want to say late first round.
I mean, Braylon had what? Two good years?
I think one.
One.
Yeah, it was.
Josh Gordon had one.
You know, Brian Brennan out of Boston College.
I mean, this is crazy.
Success.
Yeah.
No,
so the Browns
right. It's
essentially.
a blind spot that's 4 decades old.
Kevin Johnson had a couple good years.
But it was just.
in 99.
But the Browns have drafted 2 of their first 3 picks were wide receivers. They looked good. Boston's case apparently looked great.
Yeah.
In offseason camp. Well, now, can the Browns finally, for the first time in decades, get it right at wide receiver? Because the future of Concepcion and Boston are going to go a long way to when, whether it is Shedeur Sanders or eventually somebody else, how good the Browns offense can be, not this year, because it's...
Right. When we get the quarterback.
But when you get the quarterback, if these 2 guys both hit...
Yeah.
Now, and you already have Harold Fannin, who's at least going to be a good pass-catching tight end, if not great.
Yeah, I think he's already great.
You got a running back who's at least going to be good, if not great.
Yeah.
If these 2 guys hit, once you get the quarterback, you're cooking with gas.
It changes the trajectory of our team.
So to me, that's what I got my eye on, is these receivers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, that was my initial answer, and I'm not saying, I'm not pivoting just for TV. Like, that truly was my first answer. Then I thought about it for half a second. To me, it's the offensive line because...
Oh, good. We all 3 have different ones.
Yeah.
But with the line, it was addressed, but are we sure it was fixed? I'm not.
I'm not
sure
either,
it's fixed. And you have 2 quarterbacks. Everybody knows how bad the offensive line was last year. But you have 2 quarterbacks in Deshaun and Shedeur that hold the ball longer than most quarterbacks. So you're coupling a sketchy offensive line with quarterbacks who like to hold the ball. It's a recipe for disaster. So you at least have to... Now, I think, we had the conversation yesterday. I don't even know what list they had. Spencer Fano as a blue chip. I think Fano's going to play a long time for this team, whether it's at left tackle or one of the guard spots.
Somewhere up there.
Somewhere up there. I think he's going to play a long time. Some of these other guys, I have no idea if they're any good.
I don't either.
Like, you're picking up teams' leftovers. There's a reason why teams move on from or trade away really good offensive tackles or what they think are good tackles. Like for the Texans to give up on Jenkins. Elton Jenkins coming off an injury, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Howard and Johnson were both essentially let go by teams that had bad offensive lines.
That's a cause for concern.
And that doesn't mean they won't be decent here, but
be on the team long.
So I want to see what this offensive line looks like. See if it is better.
Yeah.
I think the tackles last year were far worse than the interior play. I thought the interior
I agree
play
with that.
I'm not convinced they're better in the interior. They're better at tackle.
They're better at tackle.
But I don't know in the middle that they're definitely better. They might be worse.
They are either.
You could put a construction barrel at left tackle, and you would be better than you were last year.
Yeah,
Because at least someone.
Horrible.
It's awful.
Yeah. So on one hand, I said, "Oh, good, we all have different areas of that are question marks."
Yeah.
But it really drives home
that there's a
how
lot of
bad
areas.
This team is. Because we all agree that this is quarterback. That's the question mark.
Yeah.
But you've got wide receivers, and that's a great pick. You've got offensive line. That's a great pick. And you guys might think I'm crazy for this.
No, because I think I know where you're going.
But I'm going defense.
Defensive line?
I'm going defense.
As a whole.
And I know that that's a wide brush, but here's why. Our 2 most important personalities, contributors, are gone.
Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And I remember a couple of years ago when we lost the offensive line coach, And I had said, guys, we are not talking enough about the absence of Callahan. We're not. We are going to see a precipitous drop-off at offensive line play. And everybody's taken for granted that they've been good for so long and they're going to continue to be good. But I'm telling you, the glue to the whole operation didn't have a helmet on. He had a headset on. And with him being gone, I feel our offensive line is going to go in the tank. It did, and it's been there ever since. I think that Jim Schwartz's absence on the defense is going to be more pronounced than we thought. And although I'm not even sure that most would say, well, we're going to miss Myles Garrett more than we miss anyone, I have a different takeaway on that. I think I just found it fascinating that there were no love letters written by any of his teammates when he announced his departure, when the trade was announced. Nobody came to the mic to say...
That's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
And I've tried to gently...
I'm sure you have.
Pull the curtain back.
Would you like to say something?
It doesn't change the fact that he's an impact player.
Absolutely.
No, he
Absolutely.
is an impact player, Bull, but sometimes in sports, the most important ingredient to any team, and by proxy, the biggest thing a team misses when it's gone, is chemistry. And there was always something wonky about the way those pieces defensively fit together. I remember watching the Ravens and the Buccaneers and these other defensive units. You talk about brothers in arms. These guys would walk through fire to help one of their teammates. And I never felt that was the case with Myles Garrett. I'm not saying they disliked him, but I think they saw him for who he was. I think
but you seem to be arguing against your point, though.
Here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think Verse is going to come in and have an incredible impact on this defense. I'm not saying he's going to be Myles Garrett in his production. I think he is going to be even better than fans on the high end of expectations think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a superstar. I like his motor. I like the way I like what he's going to bring to that defense. When Myles Garrett was at the ESPYs and was thanking everybody, including his third grade teacher, and I'm exaggerating, but he never mentioned a single Browns teammate. He never mentioned the Browns organization. Apparently, he did all of that by himself.
I mean, he did most of it by himself, didn't he?
No one in sports, unless it's an individual sport, golf, tennis, no one does anything by himself.
I hear you, Jay. Listen, I don't know. I mean, we could. I think you're way underselling the loss of Myles Garrett here. I'm not. I mean, Jared Verse can't hold a candle to Myles Garrett.
We're going to find out.
I think we've already found out.
Well,
but
we haven't, because the control in the experiment was who their teammates were. And I'm not selling short what Myles Garrett did individually. But in the game that he had, how many sacks did he had in one game?
He had 5 against New England, and they lost by 19.
And we lost. We got both
how's
ways.
that his fault, though?
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
I say all of this to say, it's great. It's like hitting 100 solo home runs. Like, at the end of the day, are you getting sacks? And he did. He had moments where he stood up and made great plays. But I just think that the unit is going to be more cohesive.
But you're arguing.
I think they're going to.
I thought you were arguing that you're concerned about it, though.
I am.
Yeah.
It's still a question mark because it's Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And it's Jim Schwartz. We're missing our two biggest elements. But the reason so that's the question.
Yeah.
What is the defense going to be? I think we're at the end of the day, I think we're going to say we really miss Schwartz and his scheme. And we're going to miss Myles Garrett. But at the end of it, we might end up missing Jim Schwartz more.
I mean, how would we quantify that?
It's impossible because you're apples and oranges.
I would take the greatest pass rusher of all time over any defensive coordinator.
I would too on paper, but I just want to see what impact Jared Verse has that's not measured in the stat sheet. Because if I asked you this question, what impact did Myles Garrett have in immeasurable statistics? He was a stat king.
Yeah.
But in the immeasurable, intangible, team leader, leading the way, being here when he didn't have to, being early, staying late. Like, he doesn't check any of those boxes. And Jared Verse is going to check all of them.
But he's still not going to
still not going to play.
So
Yeah.
there's merit to what both of you are
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I think you're both correct.
I don't disagree
Yeah.
with your thoughts,
But he's still
but he's still
Still the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, that's
and
it.
I believe that. Right now, I believe that Myles Garrett is the best pass
there's
rusher we've ever
still
seen.
no team in the NFL that would rather have Jared Verse than Myles Garrett.
No, you're right.
Correct.
I agree with
Correct.
that.
But
I mean, they'd be crazy if they said otherwise.
I do think you can make a compelling case that if you want to say wide receiver room, offensive line,
Yeah.
the defensive line specifically, what is this defensive line going to look like? Can they create pressure without Myles being there? What
Big
type
question.
of Malik Collins now on PUP, although they can activate him at any time. But, is he going to be ready for week 1? I don't know.
No, I don't know.
What's Mason Graham like without Myles Garrett over
Right.
there? So there are a lot of questions.
So
about
the
this
crazy
team.
thing is, it was like, this is, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, did you enjoy the play? Here's where we have question marks.
Yeah.
Quarterback, huge question. Wide receiver, offensive line, and defense. Other than that, I think we're rock solid coming into 2026.
Now,
I'm feeling good about
having
the
said-
kicker right now.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I agree with all of it. And yet, Mike had the list again. There's so many freaking lists. I can't keep them all straight. Of talent 25 and under in the Browns.
That was from ESPN yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Browns were up
Aaron
in the top
Schatz, the
5.
Browns were number 4.
Well, and they should be.
And I agree. I like the direction that this team is trending.
Yeah.
And I believe 27, I can get behind. Probably in 27, we can start having, for me at least, have a wild card conversation. Can they be a playoff team?
Well, that's if they have a quarterback.
If they get the quarterback
Yeah.
right.
And if this rookie class progresses the way, we got to see it, as you always
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
You got to see it from KC Concepcion. We have to see if Spencer Fano is a left tackle or
Right.
if he has to move spots.
We
have
got to
see if
find
Denzel
out,
Boston.
especially Mason Graham and Judkins. Are they good players
Yeah.
or are they great
Right.
players?
Yeah, because a lot
I
of
know they're
times-
good,
Yeah,
but I don't know if they're great.
Jaden Daniels, and he's not the only one. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
quarterback, but look how many players at every position take a
Yeah.
step back in year 2. It's hard to be good year
Right,
after
right,
year
right.
in the NFL.
Right. But the difference was Jaden Daniels was great as a rookie. Mason Graham and Judkins were good as rookies,
Right, but
they
can
weren't
they
great.
even maintain that level
Right,
of both?
yeah.
I think your point about I like the way you framed your point with wide receiver. Not just that it's a question mark, but this has been a blind spot for 4 decades.
Forever. Not just this
And,
GM.
and so
yeah.
I would go so far as to say that I think Andrew Berry has erased a lot of his deficiencies in previous drafts with what he did 2 years ago. Last year's draft, 1 year ago, I guess.
Yeah.
This most recent draft, I don't know, but I do know this. If he doesn't have a hit at one of these 2 wide receivers, this is a blind spot that he can't fix.
That's right.
And it's too important of a position for him not to be able to bring in talent at that position.
And really, they're both top 40 picks. He should hit on both of them.
he better hit on at least
You
one.
have to hit on one, but
Yes.
you should hit on both.
If he hits on both,
Yeah.
I think he's erased that at
Yes.
least temporarily
Yes.
as a deficiency.